All right, good evening. It is 7:30 on the dot. So glad you all could make it tonight. I'm so excited for this session. I hope and think you are too. Before we get started, I know that some of you ladies couldn't make it last night, and so this is your first time tonight. So let me just go over some housekeeping and some other things. Also announce the winner of the mugs, and then we'll get right into content. So as far as the winner of the mug, Healing is an Inside Job mug, our three winners are Rose Thorne. This is a Zoom applause if you didn't know that. Clicking your fingers like that. Rose Thorne was number one. Rain Laurel was second winner. And Tatiana Gina Prater, I hope I said that all right, was our third winner. So Kelly will be reaching out to you to get your shipping information, and we'll get that shipped out to you. And congratulations. All right. So before I get too much further, let me do my disclaimer. Let me get that out of the way because otherwise I will forget. So anything I say here tonight is not intended for health advice. It is simply health information. Do not start anything or stop anything or change the way you're taking your medications based on what I share with you. Please talk to your prescribing practitioner, and attending a master class does not establish a doctor-patient relationship. So who out there learned something last night? Do you want to share in the chat what you learned? If this is your first time, you're not unfamiliar with this format, there's a section to the right where you can write comments. Anybody learn anything that they hadn't heard before last night? My comments are delayed. So Mary Jo learned a lot. That's great. 12 thyroid markers. That's great. You're not alone. Exactly. You are not alone. Like I was saying last night, this problem is actually more common than diabetes. The reason why you don't hear about it is because there's not a drug for this problem. All it is give you levothyroxine or a form of T4 or T3, and that's it. You know, if there was a drug for this disease, you would see commercials all over TV, and it would be talked about, and it would be a very highly publicized event, but there is no drug. You need a coach. Great. Okay, perfect. I'm so glad you learned so much. So, okay, now remember, this is a 5-day event. Tonight is night 2. We will go 5 days through Friday night, 7:30, always right here, same time, same channel. And this is a women's only event. Yes, men do have thyroid problems, but I made this a women's only event because this does affect women. In fact, autoimmune disease in general affects women at a ratio of 27-1 compared to men. So I wanted to make this a safe place and a place where we could say things like your period and things like that, and talk about body parts so that we're not intimidated or shy about talking about things that women are supposed to talk about without any guys listening. So again, these are recorded. I mainly record them so that you can review them. Recordings are available at the top. It's under the featured section. And just remember, though, try to keep up because one session builds upon the other. I'm taking you through a journey of what it's like to not only suffer from this problem, but what makes our approach to this different and how we can turn this around for you. And remember that these will be taken down, just like Cinderella, Saturday night at midnight. So don't forget to catch a session or review a session before they're taken down. All right, and then how to get the most out of these sessions is number one, attending live like you are tonight. That's when I think you're most attentive. You get to interact with myself. You get to ask me questions. Please, if you have any questions, remember, I'm gonna actually answer a few questions tonight. But really, Thursday and Friday night is really where I'm going to spend a lot on your questions. So if you have any questions, just put it in the chat. The staff is looking out for any questions that you may have. If you want to post it in the group, that's fine as well. But my staff is recording the questions. Remember Kelly, if you haven't met Kelly, remember to direct message and friend Kelly. She is your concierge. She is the person who can help you with whatever you got going on. If you can't find something, if you have a question, if you're not sure about something, Kelly is your go-to person. So attend live. Now, secondly is also interact. Remember, I made this a women's only class because I wanted you to have your own tribe of women who know what you're going through, who may have the similar experience or same experience, who have dealt with this problem, have the same problems of this problem, and talking with their friends and their family. And sometimes their friends and family don't understand. And so I wanted to make this a chance for you to get to know one another. And then also the workbook. So if you haven't printed the workbook, it's not absolutely essential. I know some people were saying they have a hard time listening and keeping up with the answers in the workbook. So however you learn, it doesn't matter to me, but I have found that for a lot of people, the workbook is helpful. Print it out. I put in the most, I think, important and pertinent information for you to hang on to, that you can review and that you can have for later if you want to have a reference. All right, so tonight we're going to go over the secrets of weight loss. And again, even if you're not having a problem with weight, this is still very pertinent to you because we're going to talk about the 4 most inflammatory foods, the foods that are keeping you sick and the foods that are not allowing you to release those pounds. So I've heard of people who implemented just these simple tips, and they did it immediately, and they weren't a client of mine, they weren't a patient of mine. And even though they just implemented these simple tips, they were able to see weight come off 10, 20, sometimes 40 pounds just by implementing this. So hopefully you'll take this information and be able to maybe implement it first thing in the morning. That'd be great. So that's tonight. Now tomorrow is a continuation of tonight. I think tomorrow night is even, in my opinion, even more important than the actual facts that you'll learn tonight, because tomorrow is going to be about the mental space of weight loss. What happens when you can't stick with something, when you revert to your bad habits, when you self-sabotage? It really is a mental game. And why I like this topic that we're going to talk about tomorrow night is because the information tomorrow night is not only applied to weight loss, but it can be applied to just about anything in your life. So you don't want to miss tomorrow night, because I can talk about the mechanics of this and share the information tonight, but if you don't have tomorrow night's information, you are most likely going to fail. So please attend tomorrow night. All right, I think I got everything. So let's go through the workbook. Let's go through the recap from day 1. So it looks like this. All right. And you must find what in order to fix your thyroid problem. We pounded this in last night. So put in the chat what you think the answer is. Root cause. All right. Way to go. Amy, Diane, April, Lisa, Kristen. I am so proud of you guys. That's great. Root cause. Yes, we must know the root cause. And for each one of you, the root cause is going to be different. That's what makes this problem so complicated. I talk about this is that this is a complicated problem which has a complicated solution. But as long as we are doing the testing that's necessary to figure that out, it really can be broken down and made very simple. It's not unusual that I see women start to feel better and get better rather quickly. Quickly to me is within a matter of weeks. And relative to how long someone's been having this problem, that really is very fast. So root cause, perfect, great. Although most providers check only one thyroid marker, which is TSH, that's the one they really focus on and hone in on. There are, in fact, how many thyroid markers? Put that in the chat, please. 12. Way to go, Wilma. Lynette, perfect. 12 thyroid markers. That's great. I'm so glad you guys are learning so much. 12 thyroid markers. And now, the 5 pillars of my thyroid recovery blueprint. Well, first of all, let's list the 5 pillars. The 5 pillars are a constant pursuit of your goals. Now, again, to pursue your goals, you got to have goals. Hopefully I told you all to be thinking about what your goals are. Hopefully you solidified your goals. Remember, your goals need to be specific and measurable. The more specific your goal is, the more your brain will think about that. You know, when I think about my goals, I actually make an audio of what my goals are, and I listen to that right before I go to bed. That way my subconscious mind, which we're going to talk about tomorrow night, is always thinking about these goals. I read them in the morning. I read and write them in the morning. And so make your goals specific. The more specific you will make your goals, the more you will reach them. A constant pursuit of your goals. Comprehensive testing. So again, Thursday night, we're going to go over specific testing that I order when I'm considering someone as a patient. We're going to go over testing that I'm sure most of you have never seen before. So I can't wait for Thursday night. Comprehensive testing. Number 3 is a comprehensive diagnosis. So hopefully from last night, you saw and you learned how this is more than just TSH. It's not as simple as that. You most likely have more things going on. Remember, a symptom is your body's telling you that there is something that's being missed and overlooked. And so we need to dig deeper to figure out what that is. You know, when people tell me, well, I've done this, or I've done that, or I've done, you know, I've tried this, and they still have symptoms, that tells me that still something is being missed. So a comprehensive diagnosis, a customized treatment plan. Yes, thank you, Georgia. We are all individual, and we all have different triggers. We all have different things that are causing this. So we need a specific plan for each one of us. Again, like I said yesterday, I have never seen anyone's set of tests come back the same. So that means that no one can be on the same treatment plan. The cookie cutter way of treating people does not work. It doesn't even work when you're making cookies. So it doesn't work with healthcare as well. So you need a plan specific to you and specific to your individual imbalances and problems. And then lastly, a coach. Yes, number 5. Thank you, Wilma. So which one of these, and you may have more than one, but which is the top one that you know you need to work on? We're going to talk about how you don't need to find a local doctor. So don't worry about that right now. Need a coach, testing, great. Need all of them. I saw many of you put that up last night, that you need all of them. A comprehensive plan. Great. Okay, perfect. I'm so proud of you. You guys have been listening and absorbing this. That's great. And again, we will continue to review this throughout the 5 days. And then again, on Friday night, we will specifically go over the workbook and make sure that all your blanks are filled. Okay. So let me just take time to answer a few questions that I see in the chat, on the page. You know, a lot of you have been asking about hair and how do I grow my hair back? Well, let me tell you, there are typically 2 reasons that I have seen with women who have a thyroid problem, who have a problem with hair growth. One can be increased testosterone, too much testosterone. So I may be dating myself, but do you all remember on Saturday Night Live, the character Pat? So Pat, you could not tell if Pat was a man or a woman. So what is happening with a lot of women is they have too much testosterone. And so think about what happens to a middle-aged man when they are dealing with hormonal issues. You know, if you have too much testosterone in a woman, their hair will fall out. They may develop PCOS. PCOS is actually the #1 cause of infertility, is too much testosterone. And then they will grow hair, facial hair, where they don't want it. So when your body has too much testosterone, Again, women are supposed to have testosterone. That's normal. But an excess amount is telling me that your body's not getting rid of this excess hormone, whatever hormone that is, whether it be testosterone, estrogen, whatever the hormone, that's a clue that your body's not able to detoxify and get rid of this testosterone. So there are methods that we can do when I work with someone and how we are able to get rid of excess testosterone. Maybe you have acne, all of a sudden you have acne like you're back when you were 16 again. So again, this is a problem I see with a lot of women is excess testosterone. It leads to hair loss. It can lead to growth of facial hair. It is the #1 cause for PCOS. All right. Now, the other cause is low blood pressure. So for those of you who are having problem growing hair, I bet some of you out there have low blood pressure. So think about this. So blood pressure, it means that the amount of pressure that your heart is being squeezed to get blood out. So if you have low blood pressure, well, then the heart isn't pumping hard enough to get blood to your extremities, including your hands and your feet and your head. Okay. You may also have cold hands and feet all the time. It's because, again, you have this low blood pressure. So your heart is not squeezing hard enough to get the blood to your hands, to your feet, but also to your head. So what can you do? Well, so think of it. What do they tell people who have high blood pressure to avoid? They tell people to avoid salt, right? So you can actually add salt, sea salt, preferably Himalayan pink sea salt, ideally, to your water, and that will cause your heart to pump harder. Also, do things to help your heart so it doesn't have to work so hard. What I tell people is, maybe twice a day, put your legs, if you have a place where you can prop your legs up on a wall, whether on your, on your bed or whatever, or just raise your legs to allow your heart to make it easier for your heart to pump blood. So those are a couple tips. Also, I saw the question of, yes, exercise is also good as well. So anything to get your blood moving, okay? A couple of people asked, what if I've had my thyroid removed? Now, remember the story I talked about, the bully. Just because you had your thyroid removed doesn't mean that the bully, which is the immune system, is still attacking your body. So it's just that the victim is no longer there. So this information is very pertinent to you because your immune system is still actively attacking your body. And though the thyroid gland is removed, your immune system can then decide, okay, let's attack something else in this person because I don't like her joints. So then you develop rheumatoid arthritis, or let's attack her nervous system and now you have MS, or let's attack whatever. So don't think that just because the thyroid gland is gone, that the problem is fixed. That just means you need to be permanently on thyroid hormone, which most of you need to be on that anyway, but you especially need to be because you have no thyroid gland to produce the hormone. But again, the immune system is still actively attacking. And when you think about what's going on in your body, when your immune system is attacking your body, this is causing massive inflammation. When people ask me, can you kind of narrow down what this problem is? It is a problem of inflammation. When I say that word inflammation, I want you to think in your mind of fire. Your body is on fire. And when your body's on fire, everything is on fire. Your gut's on fire. That's why you have IBS or belching or bloating or whatever. Your nerves are on fire. That's why you have nerve pain. Your joints are on fire. That's why you have unexplained joint pain. Your brain is on fire. That's why you have brain fog or forgetfulness or whatever. So we got to get this inflammation down. Inflammation is the root cause of heart disease, stroke, heart attack, diabetes, neuropathy. All of these chronic inflammatory diseases, including this one, is a problem with inflammation. Another question I got asked is, tell me about Graves'. So Graves' disease is another autoimmune disease, and this is a hyperthyroid state. So everything is sped up. So when I say so hyper, think of pushing down on that gas pedal. Everything everything in your body is sped up. So you may have diarrhea, you're losing weight, everything. You may have heart palpitations because everything is sped up. So typically someone with Graves' disease, the danger about that is someone may have a stroke or a heart attack because of the heart going crazy. And so what they will do is they will try to medicate you. And then that doesn't work. Well, then they'll want to remove the thyroid gland, whether that be surgically or with radioactive iodine, and then you go hypothyroid. So that's how you end up with this group is you start out hyper, you have your thyroid gland removed or radioactive iodine, and then you end up hypo. So again, another autoimmune disease. Okay, so those are the questions I had tonight. So keep them coming. I love answering your questions. So let's go ahead and let's start talking about weight loss. Now, before I talk about weight loss, I want you to think about the weight loss industry. You know, the weight loss industry is a 2.7 billion, that's a billion with a B, a $2.7 billion industry. Now, the weight loss industry, if it permanently helped you lose weight, it would not be an industry anymore, right? Am I making sense here? In other words, the weight loss industry wants to tease you to lose the weight, but then they want you to gain it right back so they can keep you as a customer, a lifetime customer. So don't think that these diets out there, whatever it is, OptiFast, Nutrisystems, whatever, that they permanently want you to lose weight. They only want to help you lose a little bit so that you can come back. And usually when you go on something like that, you lose the weight, but then you gain it and you even gain more back. And then you try to come back to another different program. So don't be fooled. The weight loss industry is there to make money. So the 3 fallacies of the weight loss industry, and this is in your workbook, is number 1, what do you got to do? What are we taught that we need to do if we want to lose weight? Well, just don't eat so much, right? So decrease calories. You know, so let's talk about that. Well, let me list them all, and then we're going to go back and talk about each one. So decrease calories. Just don't eat so much. Go ahead, just eat 200 calories, 500 calories. The weight will come off. Number 2 is increase your exercise. You know, just go work out. You need to work out more. Or number 3, decrease your fat intake. So let's talk about these things. So decreasing your calories. First of all, I think you know that not all calories are the same. The calories from a chicken breast is not the same as the calories from a chocolate chip cookie. But some of these weight loss programs, they let you have a chocolate chip cookie because it's based on points or whatever. But we know, you know, that the nutrient value of a chicken breast is much different than the nutrient value of a chocolate chip cookie. And now after yesterday, I hope you know that when you eat a chocolate chip cookie, that makes your blood sugar spike. And so this can allow you to hold on the weight, cause insulin surges and so forth and so on, like we talked about last night. So don't fall into that trap thinking that these fad diets work because they tell you can eat whatever you want, just as long as you're within your point system. Also, when you eat well, when you eat good food, natural food, you really don't have to count calories. When I accept someone as a patient, I tell them, this is not, we don't weigh anything. We record calories. I don't even weigh you, because losing weight is a natural byproduct of your body getting healthier. So again, when you eat good food, good, healthy, natural, as close to the ground, when I say that, you know, it's not processed, it doesn't have additives, preservatives, as natural as possible, you don't have to count calories. Also, think about, what is food doing to you on the inside? You know, I have a friend who sells OptiFast, and I think she's very, from her Facebook, she looks to be very successful. But when she was talking to me about it, I asked her, will you read the ingredients on the boxes of these foods to me? And she couldn't even pronounce some of these words. So when you can't pronounce what is on the label of these foods, you don't want it inside you. Because fat, your body, remember, we talked about this, yes, well, no, we'll talk about this tomorrow, but your body is always trying to survive. And fat is also a way of your body trying to survive. Fat is a way to take harmful things, these could be toxins or hormones, and push it away as far as possible from the valuable, most needed internal organs. So sometimes fat is a protective mechanism. So that's something to think about, is that when you are putting these foods, like the foods like I just mentioned in this diet regimen, into your body's saying, hey, this is not good. The only reason why we're losing weight is because we're calorie restricted. But the chemicals in this food is not good. So I'm going to tuck this stuff away in the fat. And so then you gain the weight back, you gain the fat back, because it is now a storage container to get these toxins and chemicals away from the internal organs. Exercise. So if you want to lose weight, well then, by darn it, you better get to the gym. I had a patient, young patient. She was probably in her 20s, because she was probably in her mid to late 20s, because I remember her and she was trying to get pregnant. She couldn't get pregnant and she could not lose weight. And this poor girl was doing Orange Theory workouts 5 to 7 days a week. If you've never been to Orange Theory, I mean, this is an intense workout. It is a full hour. I mean, and they have all your numbers up on a screen so you can see how you're doing compared to the other people in the class. And there are some people in that class who are burning 500, 600, 700 calories in an hour. It's crazy. So she was doing Orange Theory and she was not losing a pound. And she had done it for like a few months. And she was so upset because she felt like, I think we all can do something. I'm sure all of us out there, if we were given instructions on what to do, we could do it. And she was doing what makes logic, or we think makes logic, of what to do. And so she was working out, and she wasn't losing a pound. And so the question you need to ask yourself is, are you healthy enough to exercise? So let me explain this further. So this goes back to a little bit of the conversation we had yesterday about your body being in stress. So remember, your body does not know the difference between physical, chemical, or emotional stress. And when you are sick and not doing well, you're not going to respond to stress. Exercise for most people is a good stress. But for some people, it's a bad stress. It's actually going to keep you sick. So when I work with a patient, and they ask me about exercise, I will usually tell them, you know what? Don't exercise right now. Maybe do some stretching, some yoga. That will be fine. Maybe walking. But right now, we got to heal your body so that you're actually healthy enough to exercise. So exercise is not always the way to go, especially for you, because you're not healthy enough to exercise. And then decrease fat. So fat, this is probably more in the 90s, when, remember, everything that was in a green package was considered low fat, and we all were running to the grocery store buying all these cookies and stuff in green packages because we thought we were making a right decision. So lowering fat is, well, first of all, we need fat. Remember, our brain is 80% fat, but we need healthy fats. So decreasing fat is not the way to go, because when you buy products that are low in fat, they're usually higher in sugar and in additives. And we need fat for our skin, for our brain, for our cells. So going the low fat route, though it's popular right now with keto, and keto isn't good for everyone. It's not good for everyone on this group. So you want to make sure you're getting good fats, healthy fats, avocado, nut butters, things like that. Now, another question that I have gotten, I might as well just talk about it right now, is intermittent fasting. So I know that this is a topic right now. A lot of people are doing intermittent fasting or have tried it. Now, remember, if you fast too long, that will put your body into hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. So you gotta, if you're going to intermittent fast, you want to do it in a way where you're measuring your blood sugar to make sure that you're not crashing and going to hypoglycemia, because then that's going to cause this whole insulin surge thing happening. And then we know that insulin surges will make you hold on to fat. So if you're going to do that, I'm not saying intermittent fasting isn't good. I know it is good in some circumstances, but you want to do it in a way where you're making sure that you're not starting that roller coaster of your blood sugar going up and down, which means you're being pushed to being more diabetic. So hypoglycemia, remember, that's our skinny diabetic. So excess weight is a symptom just like anything else. So when we talk about weight, it's a symptom of your body telling you that something is wrong. So just start thinking of it that way. You know, when we think about our body image, and, you know, I know some of you don't even look in the mirror, or maybe you just look up from the head up and you're embarrassed. Don't be. Your body's talking to you. Your body's trying to tell you something's wrong. There's something deeper wrong going on, and we just got to figure it out. We have a puzzle and we got to figure it out. So let's talk about the usual problems that I have found as the cause of why some of you aren't losing weight. So we've talked about the first one, which is insulin resistance. Remember, insulin resistance is when I look at someone, this is the most common problem that I see with most people. It's usually blood sugar and liver. So insulin resistance means that your body, so let's talk about this. So when you eat something, I don't care if it's a piece of steak or a Snickers bar or whatever, your body converts that into sugar. That's what the body breaks it down to so it can be used for fuel. Now, insulin is the hormone that sits outside the cell. Think of it like the chauffeur that opens the door of the cell to allow sugar to come in to be used for fuel. Okay? But if you are insulin resistant, that door never opens. So the sugar stays outside the cell in the bloodstream. That's why when someone pricks their finger, someone who's diabetic, to check their blood sugar, they see their blood sugar is high. Now, your body is very smart. It knows that sugar is toxic, it's inflammatory, and it wants to get rid of it out of the bloodstream. So your body goes through this very elaborate process via the liver and turns that sugar into fat. So we're going to look, when we look at labs, we're going to look at insulin markers to see with these examples, I'm going to show you the amount of insulin that someone may have. That tells us that they are becoming diabetic. Remember, with any disease process, it's not just all of a sudden you have a disease. It is a series of becoming. And let me share this one piece while I'm thinking about it, and I really should put this in the workbook. But chronic disease happens because of three things. One is your genes. Now, we can't change your genes, but we don't have to turn on those genes because the other two are very controllable, and it is your environment and it is your lifestyle. So over time, if you have a lousy genes, you have a lousy environment, you have a lousy lifestyle, you are going to develop chronic disease, whatever disease that is. Whether it's this, diabetes, stroke, heart attack, whatever, just fill in the blank. But the hope is that we can also reverse chronic disease. That's what I do all day long. So of course I can't change your genes, but we can definitely control your environment, and we can definitely control what you put in your mouth and your lifestyle. So if we do that over time, then we can reverse chronic disease. And you'll see that on Thursday night when we go over labs. So hypoglycemia. So remember, hypoglycemia, that's you out there who don't eat breakfast. Breakfast is, the TV commercials got this right. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You must eat within an hour of when you wake up, or else your body's going to spin out and go into crisis mode. So get something into your body. For some of you, I know that's hard because you're not hungry, And with some of you, it may make you nauseous, but just get a little bit of food, get a little bit of protein going on to get your blood sugar stable so that you're setting yourself for a stable blood sugar day throughout the day. Eat something, eat. Sound like your mother, eat something. Cortisol. Cortisol is another reason. We talked about this yesterday as well. So again, remember, if you've been in a very stressful state, again, your body does not know the difference between physical, chemical, or emotional stress. If you've been in a stressful situation, you know, we are in the most stressed out society of our entire existence. We have stress because of work. We have stress because of our environment. We have stressful food. You know, we're just balls of stress. So if your adrenal glands are shot, you're producing cortisol. Remember, cortisol is a fat storing substance. Well, then it's usually fat that's around the belly. You're not going to beat this weight loss game, and you're not going to fix the root cause of why you're gaining weight, why you can't get rid of it. Not enough thyroid hormone. Okay, so this is a special message for those of you who think you're going to get off your thyroid hormone. You better start changing that mindset, because low thyroid hormone will put on weight, will pack it on. Remember, low means slow. Everything slows down. Your metabolism slows down. So you need thyroid hormone. Remember, every cell in our body has a receptor for thyroid hormone. So you need it. You need a certain amount. Again, the ideal range is between 1 and 2, even though the lab range is huge, between 0.45 to 4.5. You need thyroid hormone. Inflammation will cause you to hang on to weight. You know, I know this sounds crazy, but there's even a couple testimonials up on the Facebook page of someone talking about how they were not able to lose weight until they got rid of their gut infection. Again, weight is a symptom of your body trying to tell you something's wrong. So inflammation, infections will help you hold on to weight. So these are things that need to be checked out. Toxins. So whether that be biotoxins, mold, Lyme, environmental toxins, heavy metals, all of these, again, your body's going to push that out into the fat to help save those internal organs. Sleep. I see someone asking about sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is a sign of becoming insulin resistant, or you are insulin resistant. So I see quite often when we're able to help someone reverse their diabetes or reverse their insulin resistance, that their sleep apnea goes away. All right, so let's go into the top 4 most inflammatory foods. The foods that are lighting up that fire, causing more inflammation, lighting up your immune system to attack, but also making you hold on to the weight. Now, before I say these foods, some of you are going to hear this list and you're going to go, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Please, that's resistance talking to you. And we're learning together that we push through resistance. We do not accept resistance. We do not let resistance rule us. We push through this so we can get our health. You know, a lot of you have been saying that no one has been able to help you, that you're frustrated. And I'm about to give you some important information. And what I want you to do is accept it and let's work through it together. Okay, so let me get out my PowerPoint and then let me share my screen with you. I got some buttons here to push, so please be patient with me while I do this. So the top 4 inflammatory foods are gluten, dairy, corn, and soy. All right, gluten. Now, with all of these foods, why they are inflammatory is because the protein of the food we cannot digest. So let me explain what's happening. So when you have a protein you cannot digest, so think of this food coming down into your intestinal tract. The protein cannot be broken down, and so it just pings around in your intestinal tract like a pinball machine. Okay, and when this happens, this is going to cause nicks and cuts in your intestinal tract, actual nicks and cuts, little holes, microscopic holes, and then this will cause leaky gut. Leaky gut means things are leaking into the gut that we don't want, and then things are leaking out of the gut that we don't want to lose. Okay, So remember, your gut and your brain, there is a connection there. The gut and the brain talk to one another. It's important that you have a good gut, or if you don't have a good gut, you're not going to have a good brain. So gluten is a reason why this is happening. So let's go through this. So what's with gluten all of a sudden? Okay, so what is gluten? Gluten is a protein found in wheat, pasta, bread, pastries, flour, barley, rye, beer, malt. It's also hidden in soups, sauces, salad dressings, seasoning, and spices, to name a few. Now, this next thing will be shocking to you. It's also a filler in drugs and supplements, and is specifically found in levothyroxine and cytomel. It's crazy. The drug industry knows this, but yet it uses gluten in some of the drugs that you're taking. So if you're asking yourself, well, what doesn't have gluten? What thyroid hormone doesn't have gluten? Where natrothyroid and tyrosine do not have gluten. So gluten can cause depression, anxiety, arthritis, autism, inflammation, autoimmunity, migraines, skin problems. Okay. So for those of you who are, on the back of your arm here, when it's red and kind of pimply looking, we call it chicken skin. That's a direct indication that you have a gluten sensitivity. So if you have eczema, rashes, acne, celiac, diabetes, diarrhea, oops, I was trying to see your comments. Constipation, bloating, weight gain, fatigue, joint and muscle pain. I've had several people tell me when they went gluten-free, all of a sudden their joint pain went away. Neuropathy, brain fog. And why this affects the brain is because, again, it is a protein you cannot digest. It will cause inflammation in the gut. Your gut and your brain talk to one another. Leaky gut, leaky brain is what we say. So what happened? Well, we began as hunter-gatherers, but then we learned how to farm. So we became agriculturists. And in the 1960s, we had the industrialization of grains. We replaced bacon and eggs because we were told that fat was bad for us with breakfast cereal. And then farmers learned that they could get a higher yield when they hybridized the crop, which means they messed with the DNA. So, and then on top of that, they began monocropping, meaning they cropped the same thing on the same field, which made the crops weaker and unhealthy. And then on top of that, to keep the bugs away, because these crops were weaker, they started to fertilize the crops. So did you know there are at least 10 applications of chemicals on wheat, which contain hormones, fertilizers, and fumigants? Glyphosate, which we're going to see when we look at a tox test, is one of these main things. This is the same maker as Roundup, and it can be in the ground for 20 years. So glyphosate, as I mentioned, is in Roundup. This is the same company that created Agent Orange. This disrupts the gut flora. It destroys the good bacteria in your gut. And this good bacteria is responsible for forming neurotransmitters. Some of the neurotransmitters we listed there: dopamine, acetylcholine, GABA, glutamate, histamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. These are the neurotransmitters that make you feel good, that allow you to think. So this is why it's linked to depression and anxiety. When you think about it, all these kids who have all these learning disabilities and can't concentrate and all that, that wasn't around when we were kids, when I was a kid, probably when you were a kid. So what changed? What changed is the food that they're eating. All these kids are eating chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, and it has gluten. So there's also sugar in wheat. So the fructan turns into fructose. Fructose ends up in the gut. And like we talked about, when we have excess sugar, that will get stored as fat. Too much fructose in the gut goes to liver to be processed, causes high LDLs and fatty liver. So for those of you who have liver problems, you've never touched a lick of alcohol, or they call it non-alcoholic fatty liver. I've had people who had family members who developed fatty liver, and it got so bad where they had to end up on the transplant list, the liver transplant list, and some people didn't get their liver transplant. This causes IBS because of the fructose malabsorption. This can actually make modifications to our DNA. Now that's crazy to think about, is that when we eat a food so often, it can actually change our DNA. And it can affect the microbiome, and this microbiome can get passed down to your kids. All right. So gluten, the protein is called gliadin. This is what causes leaky gut. Gluten is related to autoimmune diseases, gluten immune complex. So what this means is that when you have a gluten sensitivity, that your immune system will also tag other things in your body that is similar to the gluten molecule. So this can attack the brain, it can attack the skin, it can attack the gut, the joints, cause inflammation in the heart. The nervous system is most affected. So this is why when someone has a gluten sensitivity, that again, their brain is affected. Gluten is associated with over 100 autoimmune diseases. 17% of Americans have celiac, and this is going up. It's suspected that all of us have some sort of gluten sensitivity, and the gluten antibodies can circulate up to 90 days. So if you're that person who said, well, I tried to go gluten-free and it didn't work for me. Well, you got to be 3 months gluten-free, because one exposure to gluten will circulate for up to 90 days. 3 months, just one exposure. So if you can imagine the amount of exposure you've had over your lifetime, this could have been the trigger that then triggered your immune system to start attacking, along with probably some other triggers. Intolerance to gluten and leaky gut are all a part of the autoimmune disease family. This was taken from the Journal of Neurology, which says gluten sensitivity can be primarily and at times exclusively a neurological disease. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, I'll just go gluten-free because I see a lot of gluten-free products on the healthy aisle. Well, you may want to rethink that, because here's the other side of this problem, is a lot of these gluten-free products are packed with tons of sugar and gluten-free grains that turn into sugar. So again, this spikes your blood sugar and still will cause the weight problem. So you should be not just gluten-free, but also grain-free. So grain-free means no bread, pasta, rice, corn, potato, oat, millet, amaranth, rye, quinoa, barley, sorghum, or farro. And here are some references on this. Okay, so gluten, you want to stay away from gluten, not only so you can lose some weight, but also so that you can get that trigger of the immune system to stop attacking. Now, the next thing is dairy. So, we've all been taught by commercials that milk does the body good. Let's talk about the truth about dairy. All right. So again, it wasn't until recently, 10,000 years ago, we didn't domesticate animals. We did not drink milk. If you think about it, what other mammal or animal, it doesn't have to be a mammal, what other animal, I guess it has to be a mammal because only mammals have milk. So what other mammal do you know that continues to drink milk beyond infancy? Can you name any mammal that continues to drink milk beyond infancy? There aren't none, and if you ask yourself why, well, it's because it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen in nature. It shouldn't happen in us. So most humans stop producing lactase by the age of 2 to 5. When you think about it, why do babies need milk? Well, they need milk so they can grow fast, because they need to get to that 1-year-old mark. Before, in olden days, they never used to name a child until they turned 1, because it was so susceptible to disease and not thriving that they didn't want to get attached to the child. And it sounds kind of, it doesn't sound so great, but that's what happened, because children died so easily. So they wanted to have the child to have milk so that it could gain the weight, so it could make it to the 1-year mark. So the normal condition is to naturally stop producing lactase once we're weaned off. So once we're weaned off, our body doesn't make lactase, which means we should be exposed to milk. But in the 1900s, they started the pasteurization of dairy, which means they sort of sterilized it. And this pasteurization process killed off all the enzymes that help us digest dairy. So here are some myths. Milk does not reduce fractures. It causes inflammation. Remember, all these foods are inflammatory foods. Calcium isn't as protective for bones as much as we thought. This is more related to estrogen levels. You know, when women, and we will test hormones, and we'll see that on Thursday night. So as women are not producing estrogen and their adrenal glands aren't healthy enough to then take over, and I see low estrogen, this is a much more predictive marker that they probably will develop some form of osteopenia or osteoporosis. Calcium can actually raise your risk for cancer. About 75% of the population is unable to digest dairy properly, and I'm one of them. And when you think about it, dairy contains an insulin-like growth factor that allows a 90-pound calf to grow to a 1,500-pound cow in about 10 months. So it can go to auction. So do you want that happening to you? Do you want to grow from a 90-pound calf to a 1,500-pound cow in a short period of time? Also, it takes 12 pounds of milk to make 1 pound of cheese. I know some of you are saying, oh, please don't take away my cheese. But when you start thinking of things this way, you know, your mind loves to think in pictures. My slides aren't moving with me. You can't see my screen. Let me try this again. Can you see my screen now, staff? Sadie, Kelly, can you see my screen? Let me just keep going because no one's talking to me. All right, so it takes 12 pounds of milk to make 1 pound of cheese. And is the casein and whey protein are both derived from milk? You know, some people are looking at that they want to, hold on a second, let me try this again. Let me do this, share my screen. One second. Oh, I think I know what happened. Let me just bring up milk only. Technical issues. Okay. Now can you see my screen on milk? Sadie, Kelly, someone talk to me? All right. So milk does not do a body good. Again, we're not supposed to drink milk as adults because no other animal does. So this is the slide that I was on. So it takes 12 pounds of milk to make 1 pound of cheese. So you're concentrating all those insulin growth factors into 1 pound of cheese. And for those of you who, when you're looking for protein shakes at the health food store and you see whey is also derived from milk. And casein, which is the protein, the side effects may include wheezing, coughing, itching, itchy skin, hives, swelling of the face and throat. Diseases related to dairy consumption. Again, all the brain problems, ADD, allergies, asthma, autism, autoimmune disease, colitis, constipation, type 1 and type 2 diabetes, ear infections, heart disease, IBS, and schizophrenia. Studies show consuming pasteurized dairy can cause poor growth, muscle stiffness, compromised integrity of internal organs, less dense and short bones, B6 deficiency, causing hair loss. So another hair loss tip. So what are you supposed to do? Well, we got some alternatives. Almond milk is great. Coconut milk, macadamia milk, cashew milk. Milks you should not have though. Oat milk. You know, I see this at Starbucks. Everybody's going for the oat milk and they think they're doing something healthy. It is not healthy. Rice milk. Again, Rice, we want to stay away from it. It causes blood sugar to spike. Soy milk and quinoa milk. Again, these grains that we're supposed to stay away from. All right, so let me do this correctly. Let me bring this one down. I thought it was going to be fancy and have like all these ready. Okay, soy. So I thought soy was healthy. All right, so 94% of soy in the United States is genetically modified. It contains high levels of phytic acid, which affects the assimilation of calcium, magnesium, copper, iron, zinc. It inhibits trypsin, which interferes with protein digestion and may cause pancreatic disorders and stunted growth. Vitamin B12 is not absorbed when you, well, the vitamin B12 in soy is something we cannot absorb very well or at all. And then soy phytoestrogens disrupt endocrine function. So we do not need more estrogen in our bodies. And this can actually decrease your body's ability to produce, it can interfere with the production of T4, therefore T3, causing you to be more hypothyroid. This can also be a contributor to thyroid cancer, which has doubled since 1970. And infants that consume soy formula has been linked to autoimmune thyroid disease, including Hashimoto's and Graves' disease. Okay, they're telling me my soy isn't up. 1 second. How's that? You see my soy slides now? Okay, so soy increases your body need for vitamin D. Okay, let me stop sharing. Let me try this again. I don't know why this is so finicky like this. Okay, how about now? Soy foods contain high levels of aluminum, which is toxic to your nervous system, including your brain and your kidneys. And then dispelling the myths of soy. So, Asians eat soy. So, Asians are usually the people who live the longest. So I thought soy was good. One second, I'll try to figure out how to share this. Okay, how about now? Soy foods not provide complete protein. Soy formula is not safe for infants. We were told that soy can prevent osteoporosis. That is not true. Soy estrogens are good for you. No, we already have enough estrogens. We get estrogens not just from our foods, but things from plastics. So we are bombarded with estrogens. We don't need more estrogens. And soy is good for your sex life. No, especially for males. If you're exposed to soy, it will actually decrease your sex life. And then here are some references about soy. And then lastly, corn. So is corn a vegetable or a grain? When I ask some patients, are you good with vegetables? Do you like vegetables? And they'll say, well, yeah, I love corn. Well, corn is not a vegetable. Corn is a grain. So 99% of corn is hybridized, meaning it has increased sugar content because they messed around with it. 92% of corn is genetically modified. Corn is the highest lectin food. So lectin is a protective, is something that the crop produces to protect it so it doesn't get eaten up. But this can cause allergies and bloating by creating histamines. It can cause leaky gut, imbalance of the gut flora. Corn can cause weight gain. Think about it. They give animals corn to fatten their livestock. It can cause insulin surges, leading to insulin resistance and diabetes. Here we have that insulin thing again. It contains proteins that your body cannot break down, which again leads to leaky gut and an imbalance of the gut flora. So again, with all of these, the thing to take away is these are inflammatory because your body cannot break it down. It cannot break down the protein, and we need to avoid grains, dairy, soy, and corn. All right, let me stop sharing. And so when I went through those, what I want you to think about is, you want to be healthy, you want a different life, and what are you willing to do? What are you willing to get that life? What are you willing to change in order to get your life back? My ethnicity is I am Mexican, Filipino, so I call myself Mexipino, and I grew up in the South where everything is fried. So, this information is challenging for some of us. But this is really where you need to think is, how badly do I want my life back? And this is why you have to really work on what your why is. We talk about a constant pursuit of your goals. This is where the rubber meets the road. And you need to think about what is your why, because your why is going to allow you to make the right choices. And how important is it to you to be healthy and contribute to your life, enjoy the people around you, be that person that you need to be, that you need to show up for the people around you versus that roll or that tortilla or that pasta. Now, please don't fret. There is a healthy version of everything that you want. We just got to find it. There's so many. I've been doing this for a while, and when I first started doing this, there wasn't a lot out there. There is so much more now out there. There have been companies that have been developed because of autoimmune disease and food sensitivities being such in the front of the mind now, that wasn't there before. It's just that you have to be willing to try. You have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to do something different if you want something different. So after tonight, a lot of you need to start thinking about, okay, can I get my mind wrapped around this? Can I get behind this? Because again, many of you are telling me as I look at the chat and in the group that you want a different life. Well, that means we got to do something different. And this information that I'm sharing with you, you won't hear from your traditional medical doctor. They're not going to tell you to get off gluten, soy, dairy, and corn in the 7-minute visit that they have with you. But I'm telling you, this is what I have seen has helped people. This is what I have seen has allowed someone to thrive and not continue to suffer and get the life back that they want. So this can be done. And maybe think about it in this way, that just tackle one thing at a time. The way you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. The way that you change your habits is one thing at a time. So maybe think about eliminating one thing tonight. What is that thing going to be tomorrow? For me, soy is pretty easy and corn is pretty easy. Dairy, that may be something you need to work on. So, start looking at some of these dairy substitutes. Almond milk, I love almond milk. When I accidentally get regular cow's milk, it's like, oh, what just happened? What happened there? So slowly start changing over to healthier versions that will help you, help your body. And for those of you, now, remember, this disease is hereditary. So if you have this, the chances that your children, if you have children, that they have genetic makeup for this is very likely. And do you want your kids to suffer and go through what you have gone through up until now? I hope not, probably not. So when you think about this, you're not just doing this and changing this for you, you're doing this and changing this for the health of your family, so that your daughters and your sons don't have to go through this, so that you can pass down this to them and not the unhealthy things that we have been taught and learned. When I think about the things I ate as a kid, I mean, my breakfast was toast and chocolate milk. And if that wasn't around, well, then I had Apple Jacks and Fruit Loops. So we all grew up and we're taught ways that, and I don't blame anyone, that's just what it was. But now you know better. So when you know better, you do better. So tomorrow, again, we're going to talk about the mental side of this problem, how you can wrap your head around this, how you can make peace with it. I tell some people sometimes you got to almost have like a funeral for your food and just say, thank you, food, but I don't need you anymore. I'm going to choose this instead. So let's go through the workbook and then we'll close it up. I'm already 6 minutes after, so I want to respect your time. So the 3 fallacies of the weight loss industry, they are reduce calories, reduce fat, and increase exercise. The PowerPoints, they are available. In fact, I had done some videos already on these subjects, and so they're already on the Facebook group. If you just you can find them, and maybe I'll have the staff pin them up to the top so you can see them. I apologize that we had some technical issues there. Weight gain or the inability to lose weight is just a what? It's a symptom. It's a symptom. Your body's telling you that something's wrong, that something has been missed. And yes, start looking at these things. Thank you. Start looking at these things. Make different pictures. When you picture milk, picture that 1,200-pound cow. When you picture corn, think about all the chemicals and fertilizers that corn has and that it's poison. When you think of gluten, start thinking about that it is equal to something like rat poison. It is not going to do your body well. And when you think of soy, think of then developing that is lowering your thyroid hormone. It's struggling to it's combating what you're trying to do by consuming soy, by lowering your thyroid hormone, which you don't want to do. So weight gain or the inability to lose weight is just a symptom. A symptom is simply your body's way of communicating that something is out of balance. Yes, you can eliminate one at a time. That'd be great. The top 4 inflammatory foods that we just went over is gluten, dairy, soy, and corn. Gluten is one of the most toxic and inflammatory foods on the planet. Gluten antibodies can stay circulating in your system for how many days, ladies? How many days did we talk about that gluten can stay circulating in your system? 90 days, 3 months. So if you've only gone gluten-free for a week or 2 or a month, and you thought, okay, I gave that a shot, it didn't work, well, then you didn't give it long enough. It's 90 days. Dairy contains hormones that make us grow bigger. So when you're reaching for that dairy, think about that cow. Do you want to be that cow? Soy is mostly all GMO and influences our hormone balance. Corn is not a vegetable. It's mostly sugar. And when we eat sugar, we release the fat-storing hormone insulin. Insulin is a fat-storing hormone. Insulin is also inflammatory. Almost all corn is GMO. All right, we went through the workbook. So tonight, just start thinking about what you can change, what simple steps you can make tomorrow to start these changes. You know, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So I don't expect you to like go over to your pantries to start chucking things out. Maybe you will, whatever you want to do, but start doing one thing at a time. If you make one change at a time, you know, again, the way we eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So tomorrow we're going to go over the mental. We're going to give you mental tips on how to make this doable so it's not so overwhelming or seem so challenging, and things that you can implement for this subject, but also for other subjects in your life. So thank you again. I hope you enjoyed tonight. I hope you learned a lot of things. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow so we continue this conversation, and have a good evening, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow. All right. See you then.